Hey everybody, Greg Rice from Nexus Property Management. I'm back, and I'm in black too. And I have my two counselors, my two attorneys, Cuckoo and Chi-Chi. They don't charge a lot. They really give me a good deal. So they're going to hang out for today's video. Now, what I want to talk about is what the hell's been going on at the Statehouse, right, for us landlords. What we've been up against the last couple weeks, and I was there for all testimony, and I gave some testimony for each of the 4 pieces of legislation. Now, the first one was modifications to the lead paint enforcement, because as we know, the way it sits now, it just doesn't work. It's just absolutely a mess. And you know, it's a mess in your own certain way too. Everybody's mess is different. Imagine that, all the messes are different, but they're all messes. Because your situation and mine, the tenants we have, the building conditions, all that factors in, okay? The second one was our good friend Enrique Sanchez. He had the infamous rent control bill, because that's going to solve the housing crisis and also going to help everybody, right? And then the third one was the nonprofit's first right of purchase. So you don't get to sell your property on the open market. You have to wait 60 days, I believe it was, and give nonprofits the first right of refusal. And then if they all pass on your property, you can sell it to the free market. And the final one, which is my favorite one, was a cap on how much value you can own in Rhode Island. And that number was 25 million. So if you own more than that, you had to divest your properties until the government said, you're okay, you can own this much. So that's what we're up against. And keep in mind, folks, these are the people that you are electing, okay? Think about that. You collectively, you all, right? And maybe not you specifically, but I'm speaking generally here. You are putting these folks into office. Not me. Not me. I'm very much open about the fact that I am conservative and I am a proud Republican. That's who I am. And I'm not afraid to say that. And neither should you be, because they are not afraid to tell you how they are. And we have this feeling that we must be quiet, right? If we have differing opinions from the loudest people. That's not how it should work. That's not how government should work. That's not how democracy works. The way it works is by saying, hey, I have a different opinion from you, and here's why. Okay? We don't have to light a Tesla on fire to do that. And as conservatives, in my opinion, and what I see at the Statehouse, we come very professional, very polished, and very, very informative. We're not kicking, we're not screaming, we're not yelling, and we're not starting fires. That's how we do business. So I am very vocal about my anti-American sentiments as far as these bills. I think a lot of them are anti-American. And I say that because it is. Okay? We were raised in this country and built this country through the free market, through competition, through survival of the fittest. That's why we are here today. And that's why we even have the luxury of talking about legislation like this. Because we've built up so much value, so much as a society, that we can live off the fat of that hard work. And a lot of these bills are attempting to live off the fat of what the free market has created over 249 and soon to be 250 years as a country. So, with that said, we also need to thank the Rhode Island Coalition of Housing Providers, Shannon Weinstein and Greg Weiss, doing a great job, a tremendous job. And I also love Angelo Capsamalis. I'll never say his last name right, and I don't plan to ever say it right. He's doing an excellent job. And, everybody that's showing up, I see a lot of the same faces in there. Okay, Anthony's showing up. I see Sam Levy showing up a lot. Chris Smith's showing up a lot. And, you see these guys that are coming in off work. They're taking time from their family. They're coming in after hours, and let alone preparing these remarks, right? It doesn't take 5 minutes to prepare a testimony. It takes a long time. I spend a lot of time. It's like a homework assignment to prepare remarks for each of these bills. So, with that said, the first bill that we heard was the lead paint reform. And my sentiments in my testimony were that I just finished up a church in Woonsocket, brand new construction. Same frame, right? Exterior was the same, but inside all remained new construction. And it failed. All the units failed lead testing. So my sentiments were that, hey, I spent millions and millions of dollars, and I still failed. That dust, that lead dust, is elusive, ever elusive. Okay? That's just one example of my mess, right? I talked about messes. That's one of my messes, that I have this multi-million-dollar building that is useless until I can get it lead certified. And not even lead free, folks, lead safe, which I'll have to renew this every 2 years. And more dust maybe could come back. So the point is, reform is needed, and it's needed in many fronts. The way it stands right now, we're getting strong-armed. And the government is not letting up. They're not letting up on their bite. Their grip is very strong. And the AG's office is down there, okay, advocating for no changes. They don't want to see any changes made. They've got their teeth in, and they're not letting go. They're a dog that ain't letting go of that mailman. Give me the mail. Where's my tax refund? I want it. Right? That's what they got going on. So when you have that type of situation, it makes it hard for us as simpletons, as unelected, non-bureaucratic people to have an opinion. But that's the beauty of democracy, is that, yes, we are not in power, but we can still have a voice. And the key is getting that voice to be heard. And that's what we are up against as landlords. So typically the Attorney General's office will send Allison Fonseca, and she'll come down and she'll give her statements about no relief should be given. She'll say, landlords have had 2 decades to prepare for this. We've given you time. No more time is needed. Children are being poisoned. There's no wiggle from the AG's office. So it's tough. The lead is a tough issue because you have pressure from the prosecuting and law defending part of our state, right? That's what they do. And they're going to the Statehouse saying, hey, this is what we want. So it's us landlords kind of looking up at them because they have that bridge together and they have to operate with one another. So it gets very murky. Politics, government is very murky. Very, very murky. And that's the battle also that we're up against, let alone the actual legislation of getting lead paint remediated. So I expect there to be some type of reform there. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but there will be reform. That is my gut feeling as a non-elected, non-bureaucratic person. That's my opinion. The second piece was rent control. And rent control, again, only had one sponsor, and that was Rep. Enrique Sanchez. And I feel that some people in the Statehouse want rent control. Okay? And when I made remarks to Senate, I used control as the theme and the thread of my testimony. And the chair, Jacob Basilian, said, he appreciated and understood my position, but specifically in his district, I believe it's Strive Realty is buying up single families and essentially taking them off the market by converting them to rental property, student housing. So he believes that that is out of control. So a comment like that showed me that maybe he does feel rent control makes sense. But in any event, I don't think any of the reps like Sanchez's bill. That's my opinion. I think that his character and his reputation took a major hit when he was arrested a couple months ago and charged with the DUI for sitting at a green light in Cranston on his way home to Providence. So I think that that will also preclude future reps from getting behind him or his extreme bill, because they may not want to be associated with that type of person or alliance there. So again, a lot of things come into play when it comes to getting legislation passed. It's not just, here's a bill, yes or no. There's so many other outside, tertiary, and auxiliary factors that come into it, and that's just one example. So rent control, I feel that it has legs in the urban core, but statewide, no. I don't see rent control being something that is passed. But it doesn't mean that we have to not focus on it. We got to continually hammer the paint, right? If you're a basketball player, you're in the paint, you got to box out, you got to get your rebounds, right? You got to foul somebody when necessary. You have to get in there, and you got to roll up your sleeves. And I love to do that. Frankly, it gets me going when I can be involved in the paint, making a difference, tussling around. And speaking of tussling around, the third piece of legislation we heard was the Community Right to Purchase Act, which is giving nonprofits the first right of purchase. So if you have a property and you want to sell it, you would have to give 60 days to the qualified or the designated nonprofits for them to be able to make an offer first before you could sell it on the open market. And I actually got to speak first on this bill because I'm learning that these nonprofits, they get to these hearings first, they sign in all their nonprofit friends, and they get to speak for as long as they want. They get the prime time, which is when a hearing starts. The attention spans are good, the excitement level, the energy's there, and by the end of the night, 6 hours later, are there any landlords here to speak? That's how it goes. So I said, the hell with that. I'm showing up here first. I'm getting on that list. So I got up there first. And I essentially said, I grew up blue collar. I grew up in Naugatuck, Connecticut, a former mill town. Put some pictures up in Naugatuck. And there was no handouts in Naugatuck. There was no special treatment in Naugatuck. There was no express lane for anybody. We were all snot-nosed kids, and we had to do our best, stand and deliver, show up and be first, or show up and be last. The choice was mine, and I show up to be first. That's how I run my life. If there's an opportunity, I take it. I don't leave anything on the table, because that's how I was raised. Fight or flight, feast or famine, whatever metaphor you want to throw into this equation. That's how I was raised. So my sentiments were that if nonprofits want to buy my property when it's for sale, go be my guest. But you know what? Go out there, build relationships with local realtors, build relationships with landlords, get involved in the community, get your pre-approvals with the banks in order, become a qualified and bona fide buyer just like I have to be. And all the deals that I've made in my life as far as purchases go were from doing those exact things. Nobody said, oh, here you go, Greg. You need the help. And on top of that, these nonprofits are getting money. They're getting funded from the government. So they don't have to worry about the most important thing that I do and you do, which is how do I get this down payment? How do I pay this bank? They already have the money. And now they're like, we have the money, but we also need to get first preference. It's just, when does the whining stop? When does the special treatment stop? And that was the sentiment of my testimony, is you guys can do whatever you want. Go ahead, make me an offer. But to say I can't sell it to somebody else for 2 months while you guys figure out whatever, or not figure out whatever, un-American. Again, un-American. That's socialistic mentality. That's not how I was raised. So that one I don't see going anywhere. But again, it continually gets brought up, and maybe it starts to gain traction. But then I made the point, all right, you give them the first right, they buy the property. They are terrible at managing rental property. They hire companies like Nexus often to clean up and manage their mess because they're not in the business of property management. They don't do that. A lot of times I'll go in, I'll sit down, there's 8 people, each one of them has a book of paper, and they all go home. They can't wait to leave at 4 o'clock, and they're just sitting there with their Diet Coke and their Doritos, and that's not what they're there for. They serve a purpose, they serve a value. I get that. But that value, to me, is not in property management. Toe to toe, I knock them out of the water each and every time with the systems, the software, the staffing, the 3 S's of this business. They don't have that. They never will have that. So I made that point as well. All right, they buy more properties. They're not in the business of being landlords. So why are we trying to shove them into property management? The tenants are going to have a worse experience with them, in my opinion, than they would with a private landlord or a property management company. Okay? So that one really got me going. And then the final one, which was my favorite, is it was sponsored by Megan Kallman from Pawtucket, and it was a $25 million cap on how much real estate you can own as a person or an entity in Rhode Island. So if you own more than 25 million, you would have to sell off until you were at 25 million. And she referenced some counties in Maryland that currently do this. And a lot of times these reps and senators will say, oh, this is being done in Maryland, this is being done in Washington or Oregon. And that's meant to give it credibility, right? And to give it, oh, we're not going to be the first one. Because being the first one is a danger politically for a state and locally. Being the first, like when marijuana came out, that, I think it was Colorado was the first. Everybody, oh my God, right? And now everybody files suit behind them. So it's a risk to be the first one, but it can also be a reward. But generally speaking, these reps and senators don't want it to be the first time, but they want to be kind of second or third or fourth in line. So it's the sting has already, and the stigma has already been pushed out there anywhere in the country. And then they can say, oh, here in Rhode Island, we're going to try it, right? And they did it in Maryland. Let's do it here, kind of thing. So she mentioned that, which was interesting. I got to speak on that one and essentially just echoed the sentiments of hard work and success would be penalized. And how many people own $25 million worth of real estate? Not that many. But the point is, there shouldn't be a ceiling on success. And something like that is doing that. Same thing with rent control. We're putting a ceiling on success. This is how successful you can be. All right? And that's trying to redistribute wealth. That's anti-American. So I don't see that one going anywhere either. But this is the type of ideologues that we are contending with. And like I said, most of them aren't landlords. But they have opinions on how to be landlords. And they have extreme opinions too, to boot. So you need to get involved. You can't sit down. You can't just watch my videos and think that's enough. You have to do something. And simple as clicking a button, right? Rhode Island Coalition of Housing Providers sends you the bills, and you can click oppose or support and add your own little blurb and then send it, and it goes right to your local rep, okay, or senator and the clerk. So they're making it very simple. And if you can't click 2 buttons, I mean, what the hell? We can all click 2 buttons. And again, how much time are you spending doing nothing? How much time are you spending scrolling on Instagram, yelling on Facebook, sending Twitter, whatever, or X, whatever's? You're wasting a lot of time. And I don't know you, but you're wasting time. That's society. We waste a lot of time. Our productivity has decreased. which is weird because you would think it would increase with how much efficiency and technology we have. But you're already spending the time. So might as well spend it on something positive and something that's going to help your business and something that's going to make you feel like you contributed. There's nothing better to me than giving my testimony and walking out of that room, walking out of the Statehouse, knowing that my voice was heard. How often can you say that? And again, nobody cares about your opinions online. It means shit. It's actually less than shit. Nobody cares. Go in person, and you don't even have to speak. You could say, Greg Rice, I'm here in opposition, not speaking. And that's read into the record. Or you could say, Greg Rice here in opposition, submitted written testimony. That's also read into the record. So at least your name is being said. So if you're embarrassed or you're nervous to speak, which you should get that, you should get the hell out of that mindset, because you got all these other people who are not nervous cleaning your clock, talking about rent control, talking about nonprofits this, $25 million that, you've had 20 years to fix your properties this. These people aren't afraid to talk, and they aren't afraid to talk about you and your wallet. So for you to say, I'm afraid of public speaking, yeah, that's weak. That's weak behavior, and I don't want to hear that. You got to get out there, you got to stand and deliver, or sit and deliver. I spoke to the speaker as well today, and I asked for his advice because I highly value, and we have a great relationship. And he said, Greg, you need to speak to the reps and senators, and you need to get a commitment from them. You speak to them, you go to a fundraiser, whatever. Hey, can I talk to you for a sec? Hey, rent control is really bad for us. Here's why. Can you commit to not supporting to this? And if you get a commitment, you need to tell that rep or senator to give it to their leader, whether it's Senate president or speaker. Get them to commit to you and then relay that commitment to leadership. That's how it works. And the more that we do that, the more grassroots approach we have to this, and it's all little things that add up to a lot of things. The more of that we have, the better off we're going to be. And we also want to say what a great job to our lobbyist, Gail Wolf. Gail does an amazing job, and she knows what's going on better than anybody else. And, that is just another notch in our column, and that's just another person in our quarter. And when you come into our corner, now it's starting to grow more. We need bodies, we need minds, we need all that. So if you have any questions or any feedback on what's going on how you can get involved, or what you can do maybe behind the scenes, reach out to me. All right, you know how to get in touch. And again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you. We got about 90 days left of the session here, so the fight is not over. It's only beginning. So once again, Greg Rice from Nexus Property Management. Your property and your everything else at this point managed.